There's another theory, like we have spoken about one conspiracy which you also is been believing, that believing in one conspiracy can lead to another belief in another conspiracy, which you've been already been said. Like the thing is, like, this world can be illusion, and like if we look into that sense, can't be a reptile is actually ruling us.
It's the craziest idea, and it comes from there's a very specific source for this. Is what's known as a point zero. The point zero for this is a guy named David Icke. David
Mhm,
Icke was a rather well-regarded British sportscaster. He was on TV all the time. He was someone that people trusted. He was well-spoken. He was, I guess, good-looking for the age. And then something happened to David Icke, and nobody really knows what happened to him. But he went a little weird,
mhm,
and he started calling himself Son of the Godhead
mhm,
because he heard a voice tell him when he was in Peru, supposedly at some stone circle, that he was basically the Messiah, and he was here to save humanity from what? Well, from evil, shape shifting reptiles.
mhm, mhm,
That's quite a thing. That sounds like a psychotic break to me.
mhm, mhm,
But David Icke went on TV and he said this. And it's a rather famous clip. And in my episode about the reptilian conspiracy, I have a link to that clip
mhm.
where because the British TV is a lot different than, say, American television. They're pretty brutal. and David Icke was terribly, terribly embarrassed.
Mhm.
And so he then went, they're making fun of me, as they should have. And so then he started writing these books. And the conspiracy got bigger and crazier and wilder. And then he came upon a very interesting idea. Like I was saying before, how much money are these people making selling 1,000 copies of their book and getting paid what, $100 to show up at a UFO conference? Like I actually don't understand the motivation of people like Bill Moore who just make things up and then spend all of their time and energy spreading them. To what end? You're not getting rich off of it. We know this. But David Icke has gotten rich. David Icke gives 5, 6, 7, 8 hour talks to stadiums full of people. Entry ticket, thousands of dollars. And he just goes up there and says whatever the hell crazy stuff is in his head. And it's gotten more and more complicated over the years. And now everything is tied into it. Pyramids and, history is a lie. Medicine is a lie. The world is a lie. But the core of it all is that there are these reptiles who they don't change their shape. They interfere with human perceptual systems to make them appear to us as human, but to others of their own kind who have different perceptual systems. That clearly, in a room, I as a human see a room full of humans, but the reptile looks around and sees I'm a reptile, that guy's a reptile, that woman's a reptile. Hi, how you doing? How's it going? What do the reptiles want? Well, you see, they're what we might call evil. They eat human suffering. When human beings experience pain and fear, it causes chemical changes in their blood, none of which is true, by the way. If so, the Nazis would have discovered it. And that chemical is like it's like a really, really nice brandy to these guys, and they don't need it to live, but they really like it. And so they are trying to enslave us so that they can drink our blood. Where do they come from? Well, they
Mhm,
come from Orion, from a star in the constellation of Orion.
mhm.
Or they come from a transdimensional rift in space-time near a star in Orion. But anyway, somewhere around Orion, probably though maybe someplace
Have
else.
have you have
And
you
they're here.
spoken have you spoken about the reptiles in any of your episode where people could go?
Yes. So the reptilian conspiracy was the original intention of the podcast. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me 82 episodes to get around to it because it was so big. and
Mhm.
so complicated and so funny. And
Mhm.
as time went on, it got more and more complicated as I was researching it. And I finally just went, ah, I have to stop here. And so episode 82 is all about the reptilian conspiracy. And it is my number one most listened to episode
Mhm. Mhm.
to
Mhm.
this day. This is the one that people like. And again, you think, okay, big deal.
Mhm.
Except that there are two problems
Mhm.
with the reptilian conspiracy. Not to mention that there are suckers out there who are willing to pay $2,000 to hear David Icke ramble on for 8 hours straight in a football stadium. But that's their problem. The problem is number one that all of this, and David Icke himself has, of course, started going down this route as well. All of this is simply a rebranding of anti Jewish conspiracy theories that have been around for ages, especially the blood libel. And the blood libel is that Jews need the blood of
Mhm.
Christian children, like the blood of Christian children is different than other children's blood. Come
Mhm.
on.
Mhm. Mhm.
They drink isn't. And so, on the one hand, what he's doing is he's really just pushing anti Jewish conspiracy theories.
Mhm. Mhm.
On the other hand, there are people out there who believe it so much. There's a terrible, terrible, terrible story. And this is not the only one, but this is the one that comes to mind of a man. I think he's a bit of a bum. He went from job to job, got divorced, had kids, was a surf instructor in Southern California, got his kids, listened to David Icke, paid attention, subscribed, bought the books, subscribed to the video feeds, all of which are quite expensive. And he's not making a lot of money anyway. He falls for the reptilian conspiracy theory completely. And at this point, the reptilian conspiracy theory starts to bleed into Pizzagate, which then bleeds into QAnon, which is the arch conspiracy theory of our time, and which MAGA has certainly taken on board. So long story short, he gets his kids for his weekend for visitation, but he becomes convinced that his wife, the reason she left him, is because she herself is a reptilian,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
means that his children are part reptilian. And somewhere in there, he gets it in his brain that they look human now, but when they get older, they will become
Mhm.
evil, blood sucking reptilians. So he took his children in his car down to Mexico.
Mhm.
Great for the kids. Hey, a road trip with dad. How fun. He checked into a motel and then he shot them both in the chest with a spear gun.
Mhm. Mhm. Maybe.
That is the problem with these kinds of conspiracy theories. He
Mhm.
killed his
All
children
children's. Yeah.
because he thought they would become reptiles.
Mhm.
And David Icke, I'm sorry, is a little bit responsible.
Mhm. In order
You
to
know,
save the
and that
world.
is why I do this podcast because
Mhm.
it just infuriates